Hello out there, Michigan fans, and welcome to another Believe in Michigan podcast episode. I am Brandon Brown, joined always by Thomas Gines, former U of M offensive lineman, bringing great insight as a former player to what we're seeing on the field and what we're going to see on the field come Saturday. Thomas, it's Michigan, it's Texas, it's noon in September, it's the big house. Arguably, we talked about this, I think, before the season started.
Right.
Arguably the two biggest, most noticeable brands in the sport. You could throw Notre Dame in there, maybe Alabama, Ohio State. But these are blue bloods. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
Michigan, Texas, both in the playoff last year. Michigan national title, defense on the line, and have not lost a game in September at home in like 9 years or something like that.
Right.
28-0.
Something silly.
Yeah, so
Yep.
Michigan's the dog in this one. 5-point dog. Michigan wins 30-10 against Fresno State. Texas wins 52-0 against Colorado State. Colorado State's not as good as Fresno, so it's not apples and apples, but Texas was very impressive. Quinn Ewers is, they have the edge at quarterback, and that's always very important in college football.
Right.
But they are coming to the big house. This is game of the week. Game days. This is it. This is one of the biggest early season matchups of the year. Before we get into the specifics of it, just how do you feel about an out of conference game like this in week 2? Again, the brands, the rankings, the past, the history, all that good stuff wrapped up into Saturday's game.
The competitor in me is always going to be like, "Hey, bring it!"
Yeah.
whoever wants to show up, right? But the fan, the pundit, if you will, based off of the loss of talent that we had this past year, and then looking what Texas has to prove, right? This isn't the Texas of the last 3, 4, 5 years. This is a revamped team. Obviously, made a big push as far as getting into that whole playoff situation and making their run. So right now, this is a statement game for Texas. Not only are we putting college football and football as a whole on our back, because everybody knows that overall as a state, what football means to that state. We're coming to Ann Arbor. You won the Natty, and they're going to say, air quotes, you won the Natty. Now we're going to prove what really should have taken place last year if we were in the mix. And so there's a lot of things that are at play for this Texas team. When you look at what they did in the portal, when you look at the chalk or the locker room talk that they have to kind of focus on, it's a win-win for these guys right now. For us, we have to go out here and show them that just because we lost a lot of our superstars to the league, graduation, what have you, we're still that same Michigan team. You bring no fear to us, especially coming into the big house. Now, as you alluded to, quarterback play. Watched a little bit of the game. Seemingly their quarterback, he spins it pretty well. But when I looked at the Colorado State, and again, to your point, Colorado State, in my opinion, were a little light in the ass, so to speak, especially against that Texas offensive line. That Texas offensive line really does remind me of us from last year. A lot of gap schemes, a lot of pulling, a lot of getting out there in the space, putting big bodies on little bodies, and allowing our wide receivers to go do their thing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we match up across the board on both sides of the ball, mano a mano, against these Longhorns. But you know what? I'm a Wolverine through and through, and I don't care about being an underdog. Wolverines will win.
There you go. So
I don't care what it is, but hey, we're going to get the W.
Colorado State coming off a 5-7 year. Fresno won 9 or 10 games last year. They're not the same. They're not the same. Texas was expected to blow them out. They did. Michigan was expected to win by about what they won by. So, so far, things have kind of gone to plan. And we'll see what that looks like on Saturday. As like I said, the line is Texas by 5 right now, which is it's pretty close to a toss up. Honestly, you're talking less than a touchdown. That can go either way very, very easily. And again, these are this isn't. There's lines out there, but you got to play it on the field. That really has no bearing on the game.
Hey, all I'm gonna say is this: 55-yard field goal.
Hey,
The field goal kicker for
Mm,
Michigan, I think it's going to come down to that. It's going to come down to us being able to put points on the board every turn of the hat. And based off of what I saw, 45, 52, 53, 55,
yep.
whatever it was, 50 plus consecutive field goals from that young man. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is definitely going to be a game changer. And I think it's going to be that card up our sleeve that we may need in order to get the W. But again, however we got to get it done. But I'm really, I hope it doesn't come to that. But again, I think us having that confidence in a kicker that can, put it through the uprights from 50 plus, that's huge for the
Yeah.
Wolverines.
3 for 3. 55 was the long. I believe you're right. 55,
Right,
53, and 45. I think off the top of my head was what he accomplished. And that, I mean, my bad for not mentioning him in the previous episode where we talked about offense and scoring points, because he was huge in
right,
that game. Dominic
right. Very pivotal.
Dominic Zavada, shout him out, man.
Right.
All 6'3", 180 of them, tall, skinny, drink of water out there in that '96 jersey. But man, he was
Hey,
booming
hey,
that thing.
I got the hey, he's got the biggest leg though, and that's what makes the difference, right? And like I said before, there's going to be some times where we may have to rely on that young
Yeah,
man, and that's clutch,
yeah.
So hopefully it doesn't come to that. But again, I'd rather have him on our team than to not have him on
There
our
and
team.
just so confident. He's got to be so confident moving forward now. Like, I started off 3 for
Right,
3 with 250 plus and a 45 in the home opener, and I mean, he's going to think he's making every one, and that's so big for a kicker now
right,
at this point. And you hope, like you said, you hope it doesn't come down to it. But if he has to trot out there for a 50-yarder to win the game, I'm thinking it's going through, and I know he does too, and the teammates and everybody else that
right.
that watched him in that first game. So yeah, that's huge. But that's a big omission on my part to not bring him up in the previous episode, because I was focused on.
Well, you know what? The teamwork
There
makes the
you
dream
go.
work. That's why I'm here to support
There you
you.
go.
So, hey, we'll get it done. We're going to give the people what
You're
they
the
want.
Dominic Zavada of the episode right now. That's what that was. So in the last episode, we focused almost entirely on offense. We talked the running back battle, Donovan Edwards, Khalil Mullings. We talked what's going on at quarterback. There's a little thing at center, the offensive line, Jelen, Colston Loveland. We talked all that stuff. Michigan scored 30. Now I want to talk
Mhm,
about the defense, because they did keep a pretty talented, pretty experienced quarterback and a pretty good offense of Fresno State's
mhm.
pretty much in check all day. Um,
Right,
very first possession, you get the interception by Zeke Berry, which that's great for his confidence as well. He's going to be playing a much bigger role this year. And then, later in the second half, Fresno did get a touchdown, but that was pretty much it. Now you got Texas coming to town. We talked about Quinn Ewers. They got a bunch of speed. They got a 1-2 punch at running back that was pretty effective against Colorado State. Again, that's not Michigan, but they
right.
they they did score 52 and shut out Colorado State. So, look, man, when I watch Michigan's defense, I'm they might be better than last year's. Is that crazy to say? Like, I know it was one game, but I think Jay-Sean
Mhm.
Barham is a difference maker on that team that was not there last year. I think that kid is an absolute stud. I think he's actually an upgrade from Junior Colson, and I love Junior Colson, but I think that kid is like all Big Ten first team caliber. I think he's going to be a star for Michigan all year. But it comes down to the defense to me this week. How much can they hold
We
Texas's offense down?
we have to be
Mm-hmm.
disciplined. We have to play lights out, but within the confines of the defense. We have to not get caught up in the motions and formations and stuff of Texas. What From the little bit that I watched from the Colorado State game, Texas does a lot of things as far as putting their receivers, tight ends, and running backs in obscure sort of positions and or situations where it makes the linebackers and the DBs a little bit
Mm-hmm.
confused. And so we just have to remain in the confines of the defense. When you hit the guy, get the guy down. No yak. We have to be sure tacklers. When you come up and lay the hat, I don't want this shoulder, forearm stuff. Wrap these guys up and get them down on the ground because of the fact that they are so
Mm-hmm.
athletic. They are so fast. You have the Manning kid in there coming in playing quarterback as well. Did a pretty good job once he got his opportunity to get into the game. Again, there's a lot of things here, in my opinion, that are still question marks just based off the level of competition between two blue blood
Mm-hmm.
teams facing two lower tier teams. It is what it
Yeah.
is, right? But now, when you put blue blood against blue blood, bell cow against bell cow, what team's going to
Mm.
win? Is it going to be, the winged helmet of the maize and blue, or is it going to be the longhorn and the burnt orange? I don't know. But when I did see the Longhorns play, the little bit that I did watch, they have a physical offensive
Mm-hmm.
line. Big fellows were getting out in space, putting big bodies on little bodies. The running backs ran downhill, good shiftiness out of the backfield, and their quarterbacks had pretty good control and
Mm-hmm.
management of the game overall. So, again, from a defensive side of things, stay disciplined, apply pressure, get home when we can get home, and when we're able to lay the hat, make sure that we're getting them down on the turf. No yak.
Yeah, I mean, it's Texas. Yeah, they recruit, the best of the best every year, like a Michigan, like a Georgia, like an Alabama. Like that's their recruiting pool. They're going to have equal talent. This is what it always is with Michigan. All 9 years
Right,
Jim Harbaugh was there. You'd look at the schedule at the beginning of the year, and there's 8 or 9 teams every year that just they don't have the same. They're not the same. It's okay to say they're just
right,
not the same. You got those 3 or 4
right,
games this year. I think it's 5. I think it's 5 games that are quote unquote losable because the other team has at least a handful of guys that are as good as your guys.
right. No
There's
doubt.
other teams that just aren't there. This past week it included. So I think you're right. I mean, when you look at Quinn Ewers was 20 of 27 for 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Arch Manning comes in most of the fourth quarter. They didn't have him throw it a whole lot, but he threw it 6 times, hit 5 of them, 95 yards and a touchdown, and he's as confident as anybody on the field. I don't know if
Right,
I don't know if he plays against Michigan. I mean, Ewers is the guy. He's their starter. Manning is going to get reps here and there when it's applicable, but I don't know if that'll be the case against Michigan on Saturday. You mentioned their 2 running backs, Jarrett Gibson, Jaden Blue, 10 carries and 11 carries respectively, both of them, 67 and 57 yards. So like they got a two-headed monster, kind of like Michigan does at running back,
mm,
which is common nowadays. And they got some real speed at receiver in Ryan Wingo and Isaiah Bond. So
man.
I mean, they can do it. They can do it all, and they've got studs on defense, big guys up front, athletic, fast linebackers, high level corner. Like, they look a lot like Michigan on paper, if I'm being honest.
That's what. That's my biggest. I don't want to say fear, but point of contention right now. Will Johnson, if you want to be a true option for the Heisman Trophy this
Mm,
year, you got to shut it down, and it starts next
yeah,
week. We ended the game. He jumped that route incredibly, like he knew it was
yeah.
coming. Took it to the house. Obviously, let's not get the penalty after the fact. But in this particular case right now we're jumping into the deep end of the
Mm,
pool. And I have all the confidence in the world in Will. But now it's time to show and prove that, he is the best shutdown corner in college football right now. Offensive line, we got to show up. We got to get our quarterback time. And there may be some situations where, hey, the DBs, I got our wide receivers locked up. Throw the ball away. Let's come back, not force things, and shoot ourselves in the
mhm.
foot. We have to win the turnover battle. And I think if we win the turnover battle and we win the time of possession, we'll be
Mhm.
okay, right? And if we do those two things, obviously, I believe we'll be in a more advantageous position to pull out the W. This is going to be a hard fought
Yeah.
game. I'm not just going to sit up here and stroke, the Michigan hopefuls' ego and say we're about to come out here and shoot the lights out. This is going to be a hard fought game, and it's really going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes and who's able to capitalize the most.
I was just doing a quick check on those 2 receivers because I recognize both of their names as a former recruiting guy. Ryan Wingo was a top 50, top 40 type kid. I mean, borderline 5-star kind of kid. And I believe Isaiah Bond was the same way if I remember correctly. I'm trying
Mm,
to go back and find out exactly where he was at. But um, that's not the right. That's not the right. There's high school. Yeah, this is a totally different animal. This is what I was thinking about while you were talking about those 2 receivers and what Will Johnson and whoever the other, Jair Hill was in there, Jade McBurrows was in there.
mm,
He had a couple different guys playing corner on the other side. Um, I don't know how many times they mentioned it, but a lot of the guys catching passes for Fresno State were FCS guys. They said they had a couple different transfer dudes that had come,
Right.
in 1,000-yard, 1,500-yard, 1,200-yard guys in that's
Right.
production. But Ryan Wingo, Isaiah Bond, and the dudes that Texas have it's gonna be a little different animal. I mean, there's just no other way to slice
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a step up in competition, which we're here for, right?
Yeah,
It's the reason why
absolutely.
you strap up every day. Let's go out here and see who the best. Let's see who the king of the mountain is. But again, I don't want the Wolverine faithful to get so caught up into the type of play. More so, just get the W. Everything's going to be a work in progress this year. I truly
Hmm.
believe that. We got to the Natty by losing twice in the playoffs
Yeah.
years prior, right? It was a work in progress. Finally, we got it right. Now we have some pieces
Hmm.
missing. It's time to, reconfigure that jigsaw puzzle, so to speak, and then from there, hopefully, we can continue the brand of football we started out with based off of last year's play.
Just real quick, Isaiah Bond, 52nd player in the country, top 40 player in other services. So yeah, these are borderline 5-star wide receivers that Will Johnson and company are going to be dealing with. Isaiah Bond started off at Bama. I mean, again, blue chip
Right.
kids, man, kids that Texas gets, Bama gets, Georgia gets, Ohio State gets, Michigan gets. Will Johnson was a 5-star,
Mhm.
one of the best corners. I mean, this is a battle of titans here. From the
Right.
top, from guy to guy, and from program to program. Texas, Michigan, it doesn't get any bigger than that. I'm very excited about it because I'm with you. Whatever the line is, whether you care about that or not, it's going to be a battle. And it might come down to a Dominic Zavada kick. It might come down to,
Mhm.
who's got one turnover and who's got two. It might come down to beating up that quarterback a little bit. It might. There's just so many things that you have to do well in a game like this in order to keep it close. And I think being at home certainly helps Michigan a lot. But that edge at quarterback, I want to ask you about that. Do you think it's sizable, comparing Quinn Ewers to Davis Warren or Alex Orji, whatever that rotation ends up looking like, and how big of a
To be
deal is
honest,
that?
I'm going to say yeah, just because of the attitude that those guys are going to bring.
Mm-hmm.
I think Warren getting in there. Okay, yeah, you got your shot. You're doing some things. You did some things against Fresno. Manning being on Texas, hey, it's a Manning.
Mm-hmm.
My pedigree speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
And with the other kid that they have, I just think Texas is going to come in with a Texas size swagger and wanting to prove we got holes
Mm.
last year. We should have been in the mix. And if we were there last year, the outcome would have been totally different. That whole um, playoff landscape would have been completely changed if the Longhorns were in the mix. So it's the chip on the shoulder. We, as Wolverines and as the coaching staff, we have to match that level of intensity for 60 plus minutes. The other piece to it is we have to be smart. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there's going to be a lot of shit talking.
Mm. Yeah, I mean,
There's going
why wouldn't there be?
it's going to right. It's going to be real chippy out
Mm.
there, right? So we have to keep our heads about us as we continue to compete in this contest. We can't afford the dumb penalties that are either A, going to put them in scoring positions, or B, take us out of it. Um, Remember who we are. A whistle to whistle,
Mm-hmm.
put them on their back. But once that whistle blows, they head back to the huddle, to your sideline, get ready for the next play. We have to keep emotions in check.
It's 100 dude. It's
But
100 dudes on each roster who genuinely think they're better
right,
than the other guy. Like
there's no
at
doubt.
Fresno, they're not really thinking that. They might put on a little front and a little facade, and we got this, we
Right,
got this.
you're whistling through the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
graveyard.
But at Texas, hey, that's Texas. They think they're better than everybody they step on the field with, and they should say that. And some of them are. I mean, they have that kind of
Right,
talent. So I'm with you. I think it could get a little chippy. It's going to be a lot. I mean, the intensity is going to be through the roof. It's going to be a completely different vibe than it was, on Saturday. Even though Let me ask you about this too. I am curious about this. How much different would it? So Fresno was a 7:30 kickoff. Now you got a noon kickoff for
Mhm.
Texas. What if that was switched? Like, how much different would the vibe be if it was a Texas night game 7:30 kick versus this noon kickoff that has become such a this big noon kickoff with the coverage and all that? It seems like some of the best games that should be prime time now are at noon, and I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. You're old school. You did a lot of noon games. I don't know if did you ever play a
Yeah,
primetime game?
I don't really recall
Yeah,
playing a
it
late
wasn't a
game.
thing back then as much,
It was right,
especially at
exactly. It just
Michigan.
wasn't a
Yeah.
thing. Right. Playing at noon for us, w- what I'm hoping for is because of the fact that you get the butterflies out. You
Mm.
don't have as much
So
time to
sit
think.
around and wait and
When you
wait
sit,
and wait. Yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah.
right. You know, the level of anticipation, like let's just go ahead and get this party
Mm.
started. You know, obviously Texas is a great story program. Does the time change and the time difference, play a little bit to our advantage because they got to come east from
Maybe.
western, a couple of hours here and there, or whatever the case may be. Who knows, right? Those are the metrics that certain pundits like to talk about. My biggest thing is this: it's about atmosphere and
Mm.
environment. I'm hoping that we bring the same level of funk that we did during that 7:30 game to a noon game. I fervently believe that if that was a 7:30 game, based off the amount of what's really riding on this game, the big house will be
Yeah.
rocking. And we're serving alcohol in the big house too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely would have been an epic time. But all that to be said, we just need our fans to show up. Obviously, Texas is going to travel
Yeah.
well just because it's Texas. So it's going to be really interesting to see the layout of the
That is going to
stadium
be very cool to
and
see.
right, right. Because what a program as storied as
Hmm.
Texas and as voracious as those Texas fans are, and now they're having an opportunity to come up here. The last time we played Texas was
Mm.
01, maybe somewhere in there, maybe 2000. We lost to win in the Rose Bowl. Vince Young was the quarterback.
Mm. Yeah. I'm double checking. Current win streak is 1 by Texas. Um, is that right? They've only played one time ever. That was
Yeah,
it. 05.
I, Oh, 05. Okay. Yeah, I was actually on the coaching staff as a graduate assistant, working with Mike Gittleson, uh, strength and conditioning. So, yeah, and we had a hell of a shot to win that game.
38
We let
37.
we literally let Vince single-handedly, and that guy was a once in a
Yes.
lifetime sort of athlete, at least on the collegiate level. Obviously, a lot of us know how his pro career kind of panned out or didn't. But we can't let that be the case this week. We have to get to their
Mm.
quarterback. We have to make that quarterback uncomfortable. We have to keep our quarterback safe, and we have to win the time of possession. If we can do those three things, I think we have a more than average chance to win the
I
game.
was looking around. I'm like, that can't be right. One time.
Yeah,
One time they've
yeah,
played in the history of those two crazy programs, hundreds of years of football, and just like I said, two of the biggest brands in the entire sport, recognizable all over the country, out of the country, all over the globe, really. That block M and that
right,
Longhorn, man. That's everybody knows what that
right.
is. One time they have played, and Michigan is currently 0-1 against Texas after the 2005 Rose Bowl, 38-37.
Yep,
That's crazy. I don't think I would have known that. That's a trivia question that would have stumped me about how many times they had played. I would have thought it would have been a couple more than that, but
right,
there you go. So, really cool chance for Michigan to get back to 500 against Texas on
right.
Saturday. And we'll close out with this as we approach the 25-minute mark. I do expect to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or if you have a different opinion. I do expect this rotational stuff to be much tighter. I know we saw, they were running around on the field down there. I can't remember the girl's name that was the sideline reporter, but There's nothing wrong with Will Johnson. He's just hanging out. Will Johnson's not coming out. Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant are going to be tired. They're going to need an ice bath. They're going to be on the field a lot.
Right.
How does that have to be handled? Because you want your best guys in at all times, but you also want them to be fresh. You want them to be good to go. You want them to be able to give 100%, especially up front. I mean, I would expect Will Johnson to play the whole game. He'll be fine. But those big fellas up front, the way that they go at it, play in and play out, how often are you going to give a blow to guys like Graham and Grant and some of the other pass rushers and things like that?
I think it's definitely going to be situational. I think this goes back to our strength conditioning program and making sure we've always prided ourselves about next man up. So we have to be ready to be in that position. If you are the starter and I got to run the whole game, I got to run the whole game. I always tell people this as an offensive lineman. We are literally the only position that never comes off the field.
Yeah, I know. I've thought about that before.
So, and I get it as a pass rusher. Are you're putting out a little bit more energy, exertion, if you will, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And I'm saying this, because I'm an offensive lineman. But all that to be said, and you just have to be timely with it and understand the circumstances, where we at on the field, down and distance, all these different things. What combination of guys are going to give us the best opportunity to be successful during these series of snaps? And as a player, you shouldn't want to come off the field.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for. Hey, I get it. You're dog tired, but I'm gonna need for you to dig a little bit deeper in the tank. That's why we did all the extra running and we lift all the weights and all the things that we do in the off season for games like this. Right now, this game to me almost mirrors the Colorado game in 1994, and I was starting right guard in that game. And the way we lost that game really put a dark cloud over our season. I think this game right
Was
here.
that the slash to Westbrook heave?
Yeah, that was the Hail Mary and in the south end zone. So that definitely put a damper on our season. I think, and again, early that might have been our second game of the year, second or third game. So to me, this kind of has that sort of vibe based off of everything we did last year, right? We're still riding that wave, haven't lost a game. Now all of a sudden you have a highly touted Texas team, a team that possibly should have been in the playoffs last year, based off their history and everything else they bring to the table. And we come in here or they come into the big house and, like I said, I just need for us to be competitive. Yes, are we going to get the W? Hart's going to say that all day. But the competitive side, and what I mean by that is this: for whatever reason, if we do end up taking an L, did we compete? Did we compete at a high level? And did we make Texas earn everything they got? That's what I'm looking for because of how the new situation is right now. I think an early season loss that was a highly competitive game to Texas, and we finish out how we should finish out, and especially if we go down to Columbus and get another W down there, I think we'll be just fine.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. You said it earlier, but do you have a score prediction for the game on Saturday? What do you think it looks like?
I'm going to say 28-24.
We are in a very similar boat. I am going to say 24-20, but I think it's Texas. Don't throw anything at me. I think Texas gets the win, man. I just think because of the quarterback, I think Quinn Ewers is that good. He's a Heisman candidate. And I just don't know what you're getting out of that position from Michigan right now. I just, with that back and forth, and how is Orji going to be used, and what's it going to look like, and can you stretch it down the field at all? Can somebody step up besides Colston Loveland and catch something? I don't know, man. I hate to say it. I mean, that's what I said before the season started. I think Michigan's, got those 5 losable games. I thought Texas and Ohio State were the 2 L's, and you try to get 2 or 3 of the other one, two out of 3 of the other ones, and you finished 9-3 or 10-2, and that's a great first season for Sharon Moore and the team after they've lost all the stuff that you've mentioned, multiple times, all that talent to the next level. So that's where I'm at, man.
Yeah.
I got it 24-20 Texas. I hate to say the words, and I love when I'm wrong about this stuff, and I'll get a bunch of crap
All
from the
right.
fans, and I'm okay with that. But that's what I see. That's where I'm at.
No, I mean, but you have made a very educated
Yeah.
guess based off of what we've seen and where we're at right now. Um, is it apples to apples? I don't know. But my biggest thing right now is, as I say week in and week out, if we win it up
Mm.
front on both sides, keep our guys safe, no turnovers, and we get to their quarterback, I think we'll be all right. I saw that the Rams were able to get to the Longhorns quarterback on a couple occasions, pressures, a sack or so in there. So if we're able to do that consistently, I won't say we'll be just fine, but we'll definitely be in the mix to be competitive. So as I said before, the heart's always going
Yeah.
to say the W. Intellectually, analytically speaking, it's going to be a question mark and a hope and a prayer.
There you go. Again, he's Thomas Gines. I'm Brandon Brown. We'll be back to talk about the Michigan-Texas game when it's over at some point either this week. See, this last weekend was a little unfair to us. It's the opening weekend, but it's Labor Day. We're
Right.
traveling. We got
It's
stuff
Labor
going
Day.
on. We'll try to be a little bit more locked in coming up after this big one on Saturday. And yeah, let's excited. Could not be more excited about this matchup for Michigan against Texas. And we'll be back to talk about it in a few days. Take care.